quickly cut it, and the producer
So he didn't just have a riff, he had the song.
come up with the whole thing. And the producer says you've got 3 hours to put it down. I mean, there's no lyrics, there's no vocal line or anything. So Tony played it, Ozzy sang the vocal line, I scribbled down all the lyrics, and Ozzy like literally was reading the lyrics as he was singing them. And that was it.
Wow. So I'd asked, so when was the first American tour?
The first, we allegedly had a tour, but I think it was July 1970, and then also
Tour in Paranoid.
yeah, because the first album that came out in America, it was like whizzing up the charts, and everybody was like, "You got to go over here." And we were with the original manager at the time, and he says, "Well, there's Charles Manson has come out in America, and people are saying like you're something to do with Charles Manson, the black magic thing." And we went, "What? Who's Charles Manson?" And so the manager says, "You can't go over there." And then we found out later we couldn't go over there because he didn't realise you had to have work permits. Nothing to do with Charles Manson. So we
came up with that. Just looked at the newspaper. Oh, Charles Manson. That's a problem. Can't go. That's why.
By this time, we were getting all these like proper managers trying to steal us from him. And first of all, it was Don Arden. We got this guy come up to us, brand new Rolls Royce. He says, "Do you know Don Arden?" I said, "No." He says, "Well, he wants the manager. He wants you to come down to London because this guy that's managing you now doesn't know what he was doing." And so we go down to London and we find out that he managed the small faces. He was a big manager in the business. But he was also one of the biggest crooks.
Right.
And then we found out later, the guy that in the Rolls Royce that come to recruit us was in the bloody mafia. And there's a whole book about him, the only Englishman to be accepted into the American mafia.
And he worked for Arden?
Worked for Arden at the time. And Arden said all the things that was wrong with the management that we had, that he was just like way out of his depth. And we agreed with him. He told us why we didn't have the work permits, because the guy didn't know how to have them and all that. And the whole Charles Manson thing was a load of bollocks.
Right.
And he says, "So I'll manage here, I'll sign here. Well, how much are you asking?" He went, "Oh, don't bother about that, just sign the contract." And I go, "Well, just fill in the part where management gets, is it 20% or 15%? Don't bother with that, I'll fill it in later." And by this time, he gets his gun, puts it on the table, and
put his gun on there? That's not intimidating at all.
So I said, "Well, I'm going to go away and let my dad read the contract and see, we'll let you know." So it's obvious that we're not going to go with him. So then we get the Chrysalis. 10 years after, we're with Chrysalis at the time, and Jethro Tull. And they said, "Go with these, these are really honest people." So they got us a gig at the Marquee, and they came to see us, wanting to sign us. And as they were in the crowd, Don Arden walks in with all his heavies, and they go, we're not interested after all." Right. So we went back to Birmingham, and then the next thing, the guy that was in the mafia came up to see us and says, "Oh, there's this other guy, I've left Don Arden, there's this other guy and he's great, Patrick Meehan." So we went to meet him, he told us all the stuff that he was going to do for us. You're going to be this massive and promised us the earth, and he seemed really genuine, so we went with him.
And then,
Got us to America, you know.
and then was that Master of Reality yet, or
No, this is paranoid.
that's still Paranoid?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's go in order. Let's go in order of song by song, or actually no. Tell me. So what happens next? So when do you get to what happened after Paranoid?
We toured Paranoid, that was our first tour in America. We started off in these tiny little clubs. And we've been doing like good sized places in England. We thought, yeah, this is, we were expecting like Madison Square Garden. And we came over and it was like tiny little clubs, it's smaller than this place. And the manager says, yeah, but the audience full of agents. And they're going to book the tour. So we ended up with a whole 6-week tour and ended up in California. I got robbed of everything. So I came back off tour. We had 2 million selling albums, and I had about $3 in my pocket.
That's fascinating. So, talk more about. Well, let's go.
It's a pretty weak
So
question.
the breakups and let's just go in order. So through the end of the 70s. When did you finally did you get rid of Don Art, or when you went from that other guy back to Don Art, right, at some point?
Yeah, eventually, towards the end of the 70s. We sold millions and millions of albums, sold out all the arenas.
And that was the point where you guys were, where is the money?
Yeah, didn't have anything to show for it. And what would happen, if you wanted a car, you'd call the manager and the car would be there the next day.
Right.
But we weren't allowed to have any money in the bank.
Right.
And could have all these nice big houses. Then when we left the manager, we found out all the houses were in his name. And we got the tax bill for all the money that he'd wrote.
You guys had to pay taxes on money he stole.
Yeah.
Who is Don Arden?
He was Sharon's dad.
Tony beat him up?
What?
Does Tony beat him up?
No, you don't beat Don Arden.
He's one of those guys that, like, he kind of owned the fact that he was notorious for being
Oh yeah, he had a whole
kind of a fucker, right?
newspaper article about him.
Right.
That's why he called himself Don.
His name wasn't Don. He called himself that he was the Don. Amazing. So, let's go. One of the things I loved about the book is you crammed so much into 260 pages, but you would describe something, but really quickly. Talk about the first fast car you got and how quickly you got rid of it.
Well, I bought a Jensen Interceptor.
Uh-huh.
I went down the pub, as you do, had about 8 pints.
And this is the first night you had the car, right?
No, a couple of months later.
Oh, okay.
About 8 pints on top of all these downs that I was taking. And I was with a mate of mine, a drinking pal of mine, went round these country roads, and I was doing about 120 miles an hour down this little tiny narrow lane, and suddenly the car just took off.